we started a family because this is a big part.
Something that's quite clear that's happened, maybe in the last couple of years or so, definitely since the Trump era, is the Republican Party, you'd like to think, were the party of respect, common decency. Clearly, with people like Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and former guy himself, that is something which disappeared a long, long time ago. You know, having respect for your fellow person, that doesn't exist in their world. And I think that was clearly illustrated with some of the just horrific and horrendous and just nasty comments after Gus Waltz was reacting in the way that any person who's proud of their parents or proud of their family would, with emotion, etc. He has, let's call them learning difficulties. I don't really like giving anybody titles, but we use that. And some people would just, for the guy at Fox News, who isn't exactly a friend of anything that the Democrats do or say, hear what he had to say about he singled out Ann Coulter. But there was quite a few of them, by the way, quite a few of them.
So again, what didn't work before, perhaps, you turn it around and you try again, maybe some new focus groups. And like I said, when you look at the numbers, you look at the crowds, and you look at the enthusiasm within my party right now, it is working right now.
There is a lot of political theft that was going on, all the flags, talk of the military, talk of patriotism. Fortunately, that's not an offense for which anybody can be put in jail, and both sides do it. Let me just mention before we go to break that Tim Walz's son, who started crying, this was an emotional moment when his dad got up there, whether you like the governor of Minnesota or not. That was really something. Anybody criticizing that, we have a picture of that, I think, should be imprisoned. Ann Walter and others, his son, teenage son, Gus. Do we have that? I guess not. Well, when we come back, a senior...
So here is this Fox dilemma, which is crazy. They spend, they do a little bit of news, but they spend a large proportion of the time spreading misinformation, lies and garbage and innuendos, and not being particularly respectful. They've been fined an awful lot of money over the last election lies. But you would think it's like they're about to go again with the SHIT. So Tammy Loren being put in her place she's not the only one. Really not the only one at all. There should be a situation where you can have I'll give you an example. I'm not going to mention the name, but a while back I got into a disagreement, let's use that line, with somebody on social media. And it was back and forth, and they were getting more and more unpleasant. And then I was scrolling through, as you do, some of the stuff they posted, and they had a picture of a Harley Davidson up. So I started saying, because I love Harley Davidsons. I can't ride a bike, but I think they're so cool. And anyway, we had a conversation, and we just realised that we always, as humans, have more in common than disagreements. Politics is a very nasty subject, obviously, but the way it is going, and it is being encouraged under this current MAGA setup, is preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. And people like Tammy Loren, who are there, controversial for clicks. That's what it is, trying to make money. Right? Just talking real damn... They're the sort of people, shoot the wounded in a war.
And we're back with the panel. Tammy Loren, was it a mistake for Tim Walz to say IVF, and then they're called out by the press because he used an entirely different technique called intrauterine insemination?
I'm going to be honest with you, Howie. I don't think most Americans care which method of fertility treatment that he and his wife used to have their children. I think it's nonsensical to talk about it because it doesn't impact the everyday voter or the everyday American. So I'm not going to pile on that. I do think, though, that his pattern of telling little white lies or little fibs, it does reveal that maybe he does have an issue with being fully transparent, or maybe his truth is different than the actual truth. But I think that we should be talking about how he handled COVID protocols. I think we should be talking about how he handled the Summer of Love 2020. I think we should be talking about Minnesota being a trans refuge state. I think those things are much more important to talk about. I don't care which way he conceived his family. That's his business, not mine.
Right, but it is important to some people because this alternative method doesn't use discarded embryos, which is part of what makes IVF controversial. Leslie Marshall, I don't know what kind of vetting the campaign did, but whether you like Tim Walz, don't like Tim Walz, I mean, look, he's a hunter, he's a fisher, he was a teacher. He has a pretty liberal record in Minnesota that undercuts any move by Kamala Harris to appear more moderate.
Well, actually, most presidential candidates on the left come to the center, and we saw that with the vice president as well. And you're supposed to pick a running mate that complements you, doesn't mimic you, right? You know, kind of opposites attract. I just want to say, Tommy, we agreed on almost everything there. As somebody who's had both IUI and IVF, Howie, there is no IUI system. It's all an IVF system. They usually for people out there that will go, I just went right to IVF. I've had 13 IVF cycles to have my daughter. I started with IUI. I had 2 or 3 failed IUIs and then went to IVF. And I understand your point about, you know, what embryo is, you know, more critical with the embryo, you know, in IVF. But I don't think he's wrong in saying, I don't want the government to try to prevent me from being a parent when there are so many ways out there. And I would agree with Tommy that the voters don't care if it's IUI, right, IVF. And then lastly,
well, let me just jump in and say, I didn't know that about you, and I'm glad to have you share that.
Oh, thank you. So I have to say, though, I try not to laugh out loud, and no offense, because I love Tommy, when anybody on the right, with Donald Trump as their candidate, has any say about anybody else telling a white lie, a big lie, a little lie, a purple lie, whatever lie. Donald Trump tells a lot of lies. So if you're gonna do that, you know, on one side of the aisle, please turn inward and look at your own candidate.
All right, let me play a soundbite from.
Straight up, I have gone through a period of not really caring what various individuals on the Trumpy side of the world have had to say, just because I think it's a waste of oxygen, for want of a better description. But just the gaslighting and just sheer preposterous from Jason Miller and Nepo Trump, as well known as otherwise known as Lara Trump, you just have to laugh at it. These are people who pass for politics. At the end of the day, there is like maybe a thin little veil around Trump regurgitating the same old playbook. Yeah, they think they put something out there and it will get votes. It is sheer garbage. Jason Miller really just believes his own. He thinks, yeah. The state of the stock market, the Fortune 500, the Nasdaq, or whatever, it's all because the various different CEOs, business people, shareholders, etc. They think that Trump's coming back into power and RFK coming on board is going to make such a huge difference. Take a breath.
So whether you're talking about ensuring that illegals are clean off the voter rolls, they can't register to vote in certain states, or generally sending out the message, Maria, that if you're a person who is attempting to cheat in our elections or an illegal citizen attempting to illegally vote in our elections, we will find you, we'll track you down, and we'll prosecute you to the full extent of the law. We're watching everything. We're filing lawsuits when necessary, and we're making sure we have people everywhere votes are being cast and counted to have eyes on everything.
Unbelievable.
They should. And President Trump is out there taking interviews, tough interviews, too. I mean, this isn't, powder puff football. He's taking tough questions,
well, on that
interviews.
point, and you have every right to say that she was part of this administration whose record you criticize, and obviously some of it is unpopular. Don't they also get credit for things that are positive? For example, the record-breaking stock market, the Dow breaking 41,000 on Friday.
Well, that's simply because businesses think that President Trump is going to come back in, and so they're energized. A big part of that RFK and Jr. endorsement that we had on Friday, which is huge. When you look at the numbers state by state, some of the states could be upwards of 13,000 to 20,000 votes. Other states, the RFK Jr. endorsement could boost by as much as 40 or even 50,000 votes. When you think about how close the margins are in this campaign, that endorsement alone could put President Trump over the top.
We'll come back to